To Sonia, we are now separated, divorced.
How long were you married?
17 years. Didn't have any children, but we worked together. In a lot of these areas, especially helping the youth plan programs, developing programs in the churches. Oh, I was beginning to tell you that after my wedding, I realized that the pay that the church was offering me couldn't carry it. I mean, by then I was probably getting about $800, and she was a nurse, so she was able to get to work. She needed a car. I still had to take the public transportation. Fortunately for me, I got a guidance counseling job at a school not too far away. I would go to school like 10 o'clock in the morning days, got off by 5, and I got off at 5, and so I had time. I still had time to do a lot of pastoral work. I wasn't able to do as much of the visits in the daytime because now I was occupied doing so the church kind of lost out some of the stuff, but it's part of life. Yeah, so I left 86. I left Frankfield, and when I left, things were going pretty well. We had I just remember we had one of these days we had a big old youth meeting. We brought together the 6 churches, young people from the 6 churches, and we probably had at least 200, along with inviting another group to come and participate in the activity. For the day we had cricket, we had the girls were playing netball, we had track and field events, we had all of these events like egg and spoon, pull race, 3-legged races. It was a whole day affair, and then in the evening we had a big old open air meeting. I mean, big old open air meeting in the square. Got a church came in with music, guitars, drums. It was a massive day to spend up, and it was really well attended. People, it almost became an annual event until most of the young people started going to college, etc., so they didn't have time to come again. I remember too that there are a couple other events that I like. I still remember about that Frankfield area. One of the churches started what we call Saturday evening. You guys would call it Saturday evening live. What it was a group of guys got together to sing and play drama to attract other people who didn't go to it. And it was kind of into church. So it didn't matter which church you're from, you can play, you can sing, we'd come, and we had a good time. And that really, at one of the churches, was a really big thing. I mean, Saturday evenings, church was jammed. I mean, I'm talking about packed out church, maybe about 400 people turning up for a Saturday evening. Mostly young people anyway, 300-400. About 300-400 people coming together for good old evening activities. As the leaders moved on, things changed. We also had another of the churches at Trout Hall. The first one was in the one I talk about in music was in Frankfield. Frankfield also had a Easter. They had a choir, and they always put on a cantata for the Christmas or the Easter season. And usually after the cantata is over, when I went there, I said, well, this is a good stuff. And we started taking this cantata to different places. So this cantata, even though the first performance was Good Friday night, sometime between wherever Good Friday and probably June, we would still be other places. We'd probably go four or so places with the choir. The Trout Hall group had a group of young people, and they were pretty committed. They had drama. They were very good at drama, and they would have Saturday evening dramas at church. It would again attract probably 200-300 people. It was on these kind of drama was more centered around issues in life. One of them I remember, it was about the whole matter of music. Then there was this big divide whether reggae music was supposed to be a part of the church music, or whether some issues, maybe dress, maybe the language that people speak, how we bring all of these events to be the church.
So how did you decide what was acceptable and what wasn't?
We didn't have any. We just made certain that there was no cuss words in them. We made certain that the plot was okay, and that the people who performed them were people who were consistently members of the church. You'd probably bring in one or two other persons who were good persons. So those are basically the rules. They are the ones who developed the program. We just kind of monitored it. And I think it ended again after a lot of these students, these young people, went to college, found jobs outside. There wasn't enough people to kind of keep the show going. So it ended. So in 86, I left Frankfield. I used to go to Whitfield Town Church in Kingston. That's when I just came into Kingston. And that's where I was going when I went to the ministry, got called to pastorate. And then I left from there, came back. They needed a pastor. They invited me back, and I thought, might be a good idea. So I left Clarendon, came to Kingston, had 3 churches now, instead of 6. Maybe one thing before we talk about that is that by the time I reached 86, we had developed what we call in the Church of God a training institution for men and women who wanted to be in the pastorate. You remember I told you earlier that we only had 19 pastors for 90 churches, right?
Yeah.
But well, we were not getting the kind of caliber guys who had the O levels and all of that stuff because these guys went to college. The church wasn't paying them much, to be honest. But so those of us who were college trained, who had gone to seminary, who were leadership, realized that there were other guys there who could do good pastoral work with supervision. So what we decided to do was to establish an institute. And this institute was going to take persons who were a certain age group. They weren't supposed to be less than 19. And they were not supposed to be older at that time than 40. I think it was, or 50. But they had to, they must have had a minimum academic qualification like Jamaica School Certificate. They should have reached grade 9, should be able to read and write. And they had to commit themselves to 3 years of weekend ministries. In other words, they would come in on Friday evening for training. Stay Friday evening, Saturday, leave on Sunday. Sometimes Sunday they would leave, go back to their home here. Sometimes it ended up being Friday, Saturday, and then go home on Sunday. Because there were guys involved in the church, so we didn't want to. So they would do that for 2 years, and every year they would come in for 2 full weeks. And the training would cover all the year as we want to talk about church, historic element of the church, the Christian church, the local church that they are part of. We do English. We had some classes in Christian education, in preaching, in psychology. We had sociology. We had things like interpersonal relationships, some aspect of management. We talk about how they could be better persons. And by the time I left Jamaica, so that program started in I think it's 83. I don't exactly remember. I think it's 83. So it started producing more guys. It started reducing the numbers. So, for example, when I left Frankfield, there were 2 of us in charge of 6 churches. So it was now reduced to 3. So it was easier for me now to visit every Sunday, 1 church, and every week could visit them for that week. I supervised another guy, and so when I left, things were kind of on the different. It was kind of moving on. We were not only involved in that event, but so I came into Kingston now. I had 3 churches. It was a better financial arrangement.